I want to share with you what I consider the most important part of estate planning, but it's never talked about. Why? Because estate planning attorneys, there's no way to monetize this. But I believe it's incredibly important for you and for your loved ones, and that is the tradition of creating your Sebayt. Now, I created a little workbook here. I give them to my clients for free, a digital version so they can type up their stories and different things. But I'm going to talk about what that is. A Sebayt was an ancient tradition in Egypt where an individual would sit down and write up his instructions for his loved ones. So after he's gone, they would know what they should do. And it was this process of gathering memories and ideas and passing them on to those that he loved or she loved. And one of the most famous Sebayts is the Sebayt of, I can never pronounce his name right, Minamah. I think that's how you pronounce it. His Sebayt ended up being passed through a group of people who were living in Egypt at the time that were known as Hebrews. And these Hebrew people liked a lot of his instructions, and a few of his instructions ended up in the Bible in Proverbs. We still today have some of his writings, 4,000 years later. So the question, or the thing I want you to do is start putting together the stories of yourself and the memories of yourself. Now, why do I think this is the most important thing you can do? I'm going to tell you my personal story of the greatest gift that I ever received. When I graduated law school, I didn't have any job offers. I graduated in 2009. Really bad year to graduate. And unfortunately, the first job I got was a $10 an hour, being an attorney for $10 an hour. And so having 2 kids and a wife, you really can't feed people off of that amount of money. So I decided to start my own law firms, and I did it on credit cards. And 2 years into doing that, I realized probably not the best decision, and I was really financially struggling. A lot of student loan debt, a lot of credit card debt, and things weren't really improving. Every time I was trying to get anywhere, I had to hire somebody else, and just things weren't working out for me. And I started to get into a really bad way of thinking, and that was, I have a lot of life insurance. I know life insurance pays out if you've had it for at least 2 years. My family might be better off if I'm not around, and they got life insurance. And this line of thinking got me to a point that I was very depressed. And one weekend, my father had shown up, and he brought with him a little book of his journal. He had typed it all up and put it in a little book so I could have. And so as I was sitting there one night, very depressed, I finally looked over, and something in my head told me, you should read that. And I picked up the book and I started to read. And most of us don't really remember what it was really like when we were little. But luckily, my father had put this together for me. And so I had now the real story of my childhood. And I didn't realize what my parents actually went through. My dad was a special ed teacher, and my mom had 2 kids before she met my dad, and they got married and then had 3 more. And during that process, they were extremely poor, moving place to place. My dad kept trying to find jobs, being school teacher at different school districts, went between Texas and Utah, and things got really difficult when I was about 3 years old. And I read in the journal that my mother had to pawn her reading glasses in order to buy me a birthday gift. And then my dad's next journal entry was, my mom ended up in a mental institution and getting institutionalized. And that was a very hard thing to read, to realize that, you're that your parents do so much for you. I didn't have the opportunity to know my mom because she left after that. I mean, I knew my mom, but I didn't have the opportunity to know her, because that's kind of what broke her at that point. And my dad ended up having to take us. And he took all 5 of us. Shortly after that, we lived in a trailer. I didn't know. I have one memory of a dog trying to kill me when we lived in that trailer, but that's about it. And my father got foreclosed on. I mean, it's pretty pathetic when you live in a trailer park and you get foreclosed on, and it's pretty low. And that summer, luckily my dad was a school teacher, so he could take the summer off. And we ended up living in my grandfather's trailer in the middle of the woods in Texas, because my dad had to save up enough money so he could get an apartment for the next school year once school started again. And as I was reading through this, the difficulty, my father that summer had a very difficult time himself. And he said, I sat down at a table and I wrote at the top of the paper things that I've accomplished in my life. He said the only thing that could come to his mind was that he got his Eagle Scout. And he said something right then in what he wrote that completely changed me. And it was, I said, Steve, or he wrote, Steve, stop feeling sorry for yourself and get up and do something. And after reading that, it was, you can leave money all day for your kids, but sometimes the most powerful things that you can leave is just your experience of what you had, because you don't know how it's going to affect them. My dad did it in writing. I'm not saying that's the way you should do it. Maybe you should, maybe you could just pull out your phone and film yourself leaving stories or things for your kids. I'm grateful my dad left me that during his life. It helped me realize the struggles, the difficulties that he had to go through and my mother had to go through in order to get me into this world and to give me the life that I have today. I'm grateful I didn't give up. I don't know. I'm hoping I would have made it through that time, even if I didn't have that. But I can definitely tell you it was a pivotal changing point for me. It was the time I said, Taylor, stop feeling sorry for yourself and get up and do something about this. So I'm going to send you, if you're a client of mine, we send out an email, and it's going to contain this in a digital format, this book. And this is a Sebayt, which is gathering your information. I ask you questions to put down your instructions and the things that you want to do. And I hope that you'll do this, even if it's just as simple as writing a few little things, 2 or 3 pages of the things that you've experienced or learned in your life. I promise you that for those who love you, it will mean more than the money that they receive from you.